A planet named Motherworld has been ruled by a realm for thousands of generations until they depleted its resources completely. The realm then led its armies into the vastness of outer space to conquer new planets they encountered. The glory of Motherworld wasn't without resistance as, at one point, traitors managed to kill the king and queen, severing the lineage forever, and some of the conquered planets began to plan a revolution. Senator Belisarius seized the opportunity to seize power and hunt down those who called themselves rebels. He dispatched punishment squads under the command of the most ruthless admiral named Atticus. Meanwhile, in the peace of the Velt planet, a farmer named Cora was seen working in the fields at night. She was approached by a man named Gunnar, who asked her to stop her work. The girl complied with his request and joined the communal table where people around her enjoyed roasted venison. She returned to the home she shared with an old farmer who had found her among the wreckage of a spacecraft and now considered Cora his daughter. He wanted Cora to marry and have children to become a full member of the community. However, Cora felt unworthy of such happiness because she was a child of war. She recounted that she had undergone training that required her to shed all weaknesses, including love. And now, she didn't know how to change all that after everything that had happened to her. The next day, a large spaceship appeared in the village sky, and Cora hurried to ring the bell to warn the villagers. They feared the realm after learning that one of the villagers, Gunnar, had sold surplus harvest to the rebels. If the military found out, it would cause a major problem. But as the village leader, Sindri decided to meet the uninvited guests and see what they wanted. Admiral Atticus and his crew landed, demanding to buy wheat to replenish their food supplies while hunting for rebel groups that might be hiding there. However, Sindri lied to the admiral, saying they had no extra wheat, and Atticus killed him in front of everyone. He ordered Gunnar to gather all the harvest for him within 9 weeks. And then Atticus left some of his soldiers in the village. The sergeant began working by instructing his men to unload their supplies. It turned out, one of the crates contained the last remaining night robot protector of the slain king, named Private Jimmy. Eris immediately introduced himself and asked for his help in moving all the cargo. Meanwhile, a soldier named Marcus noticed a girl named Sam, and he liked her. But he was distracted when he saw the robot knight because they were rarely found, thinking all robots had disappeared. Marcus stated that after the king's death, the robot knights refused to fight, following the programmed rules set for them. He proved this himself by firing shots at the robot, showing that the robot indeed obeyed those rules. Eris intervened to defend the robot, and almost became a victim of Marcus's shooting. Fortunately, the sergeant quickly stopped their quarrel and instructed Jimmy to go to the river to clean up the dirt. There, he was approached by Sam, who sympathized with him and sat beside him. The robot recounted that the king had a daughter named Princess Isa, who possessed rare healing and resurrection gifts. The king's people pinned their hopes on her, believing she would bring a new era of peace and love to the universe. Unfortunately, the girl was killed along with her family, and that was the moment when the robot knights refused to fight anymore. Hearing the story, Sam assured him that now that hope lived within him and gave him a bouquet of flowers. Meanwhile, the villagers debated what to do next. Most of them blamed Gunnar for Sindri's death. However, regardless of that problem, they agreed to do their best as farmers, so that when the harvest was given to the admiral, he would be impressed and willing to graciously accept them as his workers, rather than execute them. After overhearing this conversation, Cora hurried home and began to pack to leave the village. Her foster father tried to stop her, saying they were willing to fight alongside her to defend their planet. But Cora refused, realizing that the realm was too powerful to be fought against, and she didn't want the blood of the people she loved on her hands. Meanwhile, Marcus dragged Sam to the communal house intending to have fun with the girl. Private Eris tried to defend her, and he was immediately punished by his comrades. Seeing this, Cora rushed into the house and asked the soldiers to stop, but they chose to have fun with the two girls. Cora got involved in the fight and managed to kill all the soldiers except for Eris, who intended to help her. Unfortunately, the sergeant managed to capture Sam and asked Cora to lay down her weapons as Jimmy arrived. Jimmy assessed the situation, grabbed the weapon, and shot the sergeant, freeing the girl. Realizing that he had broken the rules, Robot Jimmy ran away, leaving them behind. A few moments later, the villagers arrived and understood that now they had no choice but to fight against the realm. The next day, Cora set out to find General Titus, who had raised his troops against Motherworld. She hoped for his assistance and asked Gunnar to accompany her in search of the man. Gunnar went with her, and at night, they stopped to rest. Cora told Gunnar that when the Motherworld soldiers landed on her planet and killed its inhabitants, Belisarius himself led his troops. However, for some reason, he let 9-year-old Cora live and took her to his ship, where the girl grew up to be the best warrior in Motherworld. The senator regarded her as his daughter and was proud of her military accomplishments. Therefore, she knew exactly what would happen to the inhabitants of the Velt planet if they didn't fight back soon. The next day, they arrived at the port city, and they decided to rest in a bar. However, one of the patrons noticed Gunnar and asked Cora to sell Gunnar to him. The woman refused, which angered the man. He threatened Cora, but then he fled after Cora beat him up, drawing everyone's attention. Cora asked for information from those present about General Titus. Only one alien creature responded. It communicated with the outside world through symbiosis with captured humans. According to the alien, General Titus was now a fighter in the gladiator arena Pollux, but the alien advised Cora to be careful because Titus was now a fugitive and therefore very dangerous. A short while later, the man beaten by Cora returned, ordering his 3 friends to kill her. Cora got into another fight, and there was a shootout that cornered her but managed to end them all. Cora noticed a man watching her fight, and when her life was threatened, the man saved Cora. He was an opportunist named Kai, and he agreed to help Cora gather troops to fight against Motherworld as long as he got paid. Soon after the ship took off, Kai admitted that they should first stop at the planet New Wodi because there was a man who would be suitable to join Cora's team. Meanwhile, Admiral Atticus replenished his body with Motherworld energy and received news that captured rebel agents held information about the resistance forces. Back on Kai's ship, they landed on New Wodi without any troubles. The local farm owner had chained a man named Tarek, the man Kai offered to join Cora's team. However, the owner set a condition for Tarek's release. He had to tame his wild griffin. After discussing with Cora, Tarek agreed. He approached the griffin as the creature struggled in its bonds. Tarek asked the people to release the rope, then he communicated with the griffin. Once the griffin began to calm down, he took the chance to leap onto its back. The griffin went wild again, then took Tarek flying into the air. As the griffin saw the cliff, it tried to throw Tarek off its back. Tarek fell, and the griffin attempted to flee. But he immediately ran after the creature, then jumped back onto its back as the griffin began to accept him as its rider. Now, the griffin was completely calm and brought the man back to the farm. Cora was thrilled with his skill and delighted to have an ally like him. The owner finally kept his promise and released Tarek. However, when he tried to ride the griffin, it went berserk and killed the man, and no one cared about him. They then flew to the planet Dagus, a cobalt mine, the home of the talented named Nemesis. But at that moment, she had to rescue a human child abducted by spider-like representatives, which were nearly wiped out on this planet. Her children were killed, and now she sought revenge on humans. Nemesis tried to persuade her to release the child, but when she realized that it wouldn't work, she engaged in battle and successfully killed the creature. Nemesis wasn't proud of this victory, because she knew humans were to blame for everything. She joined Cora's team, and they immediately flew to the planet Pollux. Here, Cora told Gunnar that she was Princess Isa's guardian, and saw how the little girl revived a dead bird with her superpowers. However, now she felt guilty for the death of the special girl, because she couldn't protect her. After arriving at the planet Pollux, the team headed to the gladiator arena, where Cora found the legendary General Titus as a drunken vagabond. They brought him to the baths, where the general was cleaned and revived. He was overwhelmed with regret after losing all his soldiers on the battlefield, and now he punished himself in this way. But Cora insisted that they needed him, offering him a chance for revenge, and the man began to rise from his knees. Meanwhile, the captured rebel agent was brought to Admiral Atticus for interrogation. He confessed that the resistance forces were based on the planet Sharan, under the protection of King Levitica. After obtaining the information, Atticus killed the man in order to flight to Sharan simultaneously. Back on Kai's ship, they landed on Sharan, where they were welcomed by King Levitica himself, and Cora thanked him for his kindness and assistance. A few moments later, the rebel fleet commanded by Darian and Devra, siblings who had bought surplus harvest from Gunnar, arrived. Cora invited them to work together to fight against Admiral Atticus's ship. Initially, they were reluctant to accept the offer, considering the enemy ship too powerful if attacked openly. But after learning that their food-supplying planet was in danger, the rebels finally agreed to join forces with Cora. After Kai's ship took off again, he offered to become a member of Cora's team. But before they went any further, Kai took them to the planet Gondoval to deliver cargo to the trading post. Unbeknownst to them, Atticus had arrived on the planet Sharan to interrogate King Levitica. The admiral learned that the king had aided the rebels in recovery, and he executed him and laid waste to his planet. Back on Kai's ship, they arrived at the planet Gondoval and began unloading the crates together. Suddenly, one of the crates opened and transformed into a device that captured all members of Cora's team. except Gunnar. Here, it was revealed that Kai had planned this betrayal from the beginning for the reward. He was delighted with the capture because each of them was valuable, but Cora herself exceeded them all. A few moments later, the Admiral's ship docked at the base, and Atticus rushed to the pier to check who Kai had prepared for him. He walked past the prisoners and stopped near Gunnar, whom he didn't expect to see among them. Kai handed a siren-like device to the farmer and asked him to execute Cora. Gunnar complied, approaching her with the syringe, apologizing to her, but quickly injecting it into Kai's head. Cora immediately grabbed an enemy rifle nearby and opened fire. As she engaged in the shootout, Gunnar freed the others, and they joined the fight. Suddenly, Darien saw Atticus's main ship firing at their ship. Realizing they were in danger, the resistance leader rushed up the stairs, jumped into the cockpit of the ship, and killed the pilot, but he was shot and died in the process. The ship began to lose control and crashed onto the ground, while Atticus remained on the small platform. Cora ran towards him, and a fierce battle ensued between them. After being knocked down several times, Cora finally managed to incapacitate the Admiral and threw him to the ground, accepting his death. After the intense battle, the surviving soldiers returned together to the planet Velt, where Jimmy was seen hiding in the wheat fields. Meanwhile, Atticus was retrieved by Realm medical officers, revealing that he was an android. He was then returned to Motherworld's womb and appeared before King Belisarius. He reported that he had found Cora, who had been part of the rebellion, and promised to bring her head. However, the Lord simply demanded that the Admiral crush this rebellion to the last man and bring his daughter to him alive so that he could execute her himself.